Emily loved visiting her grandmother's old house in the countryside. Every summer, she spent hours exploring the creaky attic, where treasures from the past were hidden in plain sight. One day, as she rummaged through an old chest, she found something extraordinary: a rusty ancient key, half buried beneath a pile of old letters. The key was cold and heavy in her hand, and she knew at once that it held a secret. With the key clutched tightly in her hand, Emily set off into the woods behind her grandmother's house. She had explored this forest many times before, but something was different this time. The trees seemed to whisper secrets as she walked, guiding her to a place she had never noticed. There, hidden beneath a curtain of ivy, was an old iron gate. The lock on the gate was rusty and worn, but when Emily slipped the key into it, the lock clicked open with surprising ease. Emily pushed the gate open, and it creaked loudly in protest, as if it hadn't been opened in years. Beyond the gate, she discovered a hidden garden. The garden was wild and overgrown, with flowers and plants struggling to reach the sunlight through the tangled vines. But even in its neglected state, there was a certain beauty in it. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the sound of a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. Emily knew at once what she had to do. This secret garden needed someone to care for it, and she was determined to be that person. Day after day, she returned to the garden, pulling up weeds, untangling vines, and watering the wilting flowers. It was hard work, and sometimes it seemed like the garden would never be tamed. But Emily didn't give up. With each weed she pulled and each flower she watered, the garden began to change. Slowly but surely, it started to come alive. As Emily cared for the garden, something magical began to happen. The once wild and tangled plants started to bloom, filling the garden with vibrant colours. Roses, daisies, and lavender sprang up in every corner, their petals soft and fragrant. Birds began to visit, singing sweet songs from the branches of the trees. Butterflies fluttered through the air, their wings shimmering in the sunlight. Even the rabbits from the nearby woods started to make their home in the garden, nibbling on the tender grass. The garden, once hidden and forgotten, was now a place full of life and beauty. One afternoon, as Emily was tending to the flowers, she noticed a boy standing outside the gate. He was about her age, with a forlorn expression and dirt-smudged cheeks. His clothes were worn, and he looked as though he hadn't smiled in a long time. Emily's heart went out to him. Without hesitation, she called out to him, inviting him into the garden. The boy hesitated at first, but something in Emily's warm smile made him step through the gate. The boy, whose name was Tom, began to visit the garden every day. At first, he was shy and quiet, but Emily's kindness soon made him feel at home. Together, they planted new flowers, trimmed the hedges, and even built a small pond for the birds. As the garden grew, so did their friendship. Tom, who had once felt so alone, now had a place where he belonged. The garden was no longer just Emily's secret, it was their shared sanctuary, a place where kindness blossomed just as brightly as the flowers. Word of the secret garden soon spread through the village, and more children began to visit. They came to play, to help tend the flowers, and to enjoy the peace and beauty that the garden offered. The garden, once forgotten and overgrown, had become a place of joy and friendship. It was a place where everyone was welcome, where laughter echoed through the trees, and where kindness grew in every corner. As the sun set over the garden, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Emily looked around at her friends. The garden had brought them together, but it was kindness that had kept them together. In that moment, she knew that the garden had taught her something important. Kindness, like a garden, needed to be nurtured. When it was, it could grow into something beautiful, something that could bring joy to others. The secret garden had taught Emily and her friends a lesson they would never forget. Kindness, when shared, grows and creates beauty for all. Just like the garden, our hearts can bloom with kindness, and when we share that kindness, we can make the world a more beautiful place.